Let's start with Terry Francona in St. Louis. Now, Francona interviewed, or did he, for the manager's job in St. Louis yesterday. The legendary columnist, I always mispronounce his name. Is it Miklas? Bernie Miklas? Is that how you pronounce his name?
I do not know. I don't want to guess, but
I think it is Bernie Miklas. He writes an interesting column saying, is Francona really a serious candidate? And he talks about the interview that Terry Francona had with the Cardinals people yesterday and how serious Francona might be. Francona's quote after it is, "We just had a dialogue. I enjoy talking about baseball." This is Francona after he met with Bill DeWitt Jr. and John Mozeliak, the team's GM. He said, "I enjoy talking about baseball a lot. Without going into details, we discussed pretty basic philosophy. I'd call it an enjoyable, casual conversation." Bernie goes on to speculate that maybe Francona isn't a serious candidate after all. Maybe this was a token interview. What are your thoughts?
well, Butch, there's one thing in life that you cannot get back, and that's time. And a team like the St. Louis Cardinals don't have time to waste chatting up baseball. I do think he's a serious candidate, or he wouldn't be here. And my take on that is this. If he doesn't get the job, there's an out there for him that says, you know what? I'm glad we had that conversation. It really wasn't, my heart really wasn't in it. I think it's more of a backstory for him than it is, I don't want the job. I do think he wants the job. I do think he wants to be in baseball, and I think it's a good fit for him. But I go back to something I said last week, Butch, and that is if Jose Oquendo gets the job, they have a better shot of keeping Albert Pujols. So I think you've got to watch Oquendo in this whole equation. And if he is a serious contender, Pujols stays. And then I wouldn't rule out guys, I've got a list of them here, Sandberg and Mike Matheny, who they also like. Their AAA manager is there. That's Chris Maloney. Joe McEwing is interviewing. So they're interviewing and they're looking at a broad spectrum of people. But I really think the job is Oquendo's if he wants it, and that helps them keep Pujols out. I think that's interconnected. But the thing about Francona is that could be a way to soften the blow if, in fact, the job is not his. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. And let's talk about Albert Pujols, because he's the 800-pound gorilla, literally and figuratively, in this room with the Cardinals. I mean, he's a free agent this year. He can go where he wants. They're about to pick a new manager. You can't tell me that isn't factor number one in St. Louis, that they're either going to directly check with Albert and see who he wants as a manager, or in contract negotiations or discussions, ask him about that. I mean, really, you've painted a picture, and others have written about this, Bernie, that if they want to keep Albert, their best chance is to get Jose Oquendo as their manager.
Butch, I do not see a market for Pujols. I don't know where he's going to go with that kind of money. The market's there, but not for that length and those terms.
Yeah, but we all know, Bernie, we've been watching baseball for too long, you and I, that all it takes is one team, whether it's the Yankees, whether it's the Orioles trying to make a splash, we'll get to them later, whether it's Theo and the Cubs and he convinces Rickards all it takes is one team, is my point.
That is correct, but I think his heart is in St. Louis. I'm not ruling him out of St. Louis. I think that combination is going to be there, Oquendo and Pujols. My gut just says that fits. St. Louis is a comfort level Midwest, absolutely baseball fanatic city. I think the fans would not be happy to lose Albert. Too many things point to St. Louis for me.